People v. Jennifer Crumbley, case number 22279-990-SH.
Ready for the jury?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We'll bring him in.
All rise for the jury. Maybe approach briefly. We'll just go out with this witness.
All right. Next up, Miss Luke Kirkley. Oh, yeah. Good morning. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give you the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Where you can be seated. And then would you state the name and spell your first and last name?
Sure. His name is Luke Kirtley, Lukekirtley.
And Your Honor, I want
I'm
to place
sorry.
on.
Is it Kirtley?
Kirtley.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to place on the record that Mr. Kirtley doesn't mean any disrespect. He has sensitivity to his eyes, so he's been given permission to have his to wear his hat.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the jury doesn't think he's being disrespectful. Okay. May I call you Luke?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Luke, can you tell the jury what your occupation is? What do you do for a living?
Sure. I own a company called Coffee House in Detroit, and so we manufacture and roast coffee and supply coffee to restaurants, hotels, and own a couple of cafes as well.
All right. And when did you start that business?
So I registered the business in about 2017, moved into Bellevue, I would say about 2 years after that. In our current spot, we were there since 2020.
Okay. Just briefly, what do you need space for in your business? What are you doing in your actual brick and mortar?
Sure. So as of current, we have two spaces in the building. One space is on the first floor, which is where we manufacture the coffee. So we import it, we bring it in on trucks. We do all the roasting there, and packaging, everything like that. And our offices are down there as well. And then on the third floor, we just have storage.
All right. And the address of that building is what?
1111 Bellevue Street.
All right. How long have you been a tenant there?
So I've been in the current space since 2020. Maybe a year before that, I was in another space on the third floor.
All right. Are there any conditions in your lease about what you can do with that building in terms of what you can use it for?
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's general terms and conditions that you define within the lease. You know, to my knowledge, what I've seen.
Can you have a business that has people residing there overnight?
No. At least in my specific lease, you're not allowed to sleep there at all.
All right. Can you describe to the jury, aside from the address, about where that building is in Detroit?
Sure. So it's generally when people ask me where my office is, I tell them it's right across from Belle Isle. So you know, Island in Detroit. We're about 2 blocks off of Jefferson, which is a pretty fairly main road. Jefferson and East Grand Boulevard. Specifically, this is Bellevue between Lafayette and St. Paul.
Okay. And about how many other tenants, if you know approximately, are in that building?
I would say in terms of leaseholders, maybe 10.
Okay. Is there anything else significant about that building with regard to storage? Is there parking?
Yeah, so in general, where maybe, you know, employees and tenants of the building are on the street, which is just free, open parking, and then there's 2 parking lots. There's, I don't know, north or south or east or west, but on one side of the building there's a parking lot which is gated. You know, you have like a little clicker to get in, and then on the other side there's a strip of guest parking that they identify, and then the same thing, kind of like a remote sliding gate.
And so who has the fob or the remote to get into the parking lot?
Tenants.
Okay. Is there any indoor parking or garage?
So there are indoor garages. There's a couple different spots. There's one side of the building if we're looking at the front of the building on the left, there's essentially like an empty part of the building that hasn't been developed yet, that they store like a truck when they spread salt and whatnot. That sits in there. And then there's a main garage door, which tenants use actively to go in and out of for loading and unloading.
Okay.
And then on the first floor, there's an elevator that you can drive a car onto and go up and down through the floors.
Okay. And what would be the reason you need a car elevator?
So the building was for like car manufacturing in the 20s.
Okay.
It was there. It's the original elevator from when the building was built. But tenants like myself and a woodworking company on the second floor will use it to move cars up and down, load, unload, generally.
All right. So in addition to your coffee roasting business, you have another hobby, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And what is it? Tell the jury what it is.
Yeah. So I like to drive cars. So I cycle through, sell, buy cars just to enjoy. And so presumably where you're getting at is on the third floor. I put cars up there every now and then. We have one of the storage units has a garage door ourselves, so we can pull a car in there.
So at any given time, how many cars do you have personally?
2 or 3.
Okay. I want to take you back to November 30th of 2021. How many cars did you own at that time, if you can remember?
I believe 2. It might have been 3, but as far as I know, it wasn't that many.
All right. And did you have a reason, that was a Tuesday, did you work that day during the day?
Yes.
And about what time did you leave?
Not sure exactly. Being a business owner, I work really random hours, so sometimes late, sometimes early, but generally speaking, I get off around 6-ish.
Okay. Talk to me about activity. Have you been there at night past 10 o'clock before?
Yeah.
What's the building occupied around that time? Do you have people that are still in the building working?
Very rarely. So there's one tenant to my left, which is like a breed rare plants, to my knowledge. They are intermittently there late. It's not a pattern, I would say, if anything. So they're just kind of there. And then there's a vinyl sign company as well. The owner's often there late, but not. I wouldn't say he makes like a particular habit of being there at a certain time. But generally speaking, when I go there to like switch cars around or anything, it's empty.
Okay, let's back up. The switching car things. Explain to the jury what you.
So at the time, I lived down the street, more or less, less than a mile away, and where I would park my car, I found it as a liability to park one of the cars there because it was like a nicer, lower mile car, because my other one had its mirror taken off on the street that I park on. So when I have when people refer to it as like a daily driver, that's what I let sit at the building while I, went and enjoyed my other car.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I mean,
when
I
it was
can't
time-
personally relate to that, but I understand.
when it was time to put it away, I went and got my worst car generally, and went to go park down the street. And so I
A
took the car.
beater? You have a beater?
Yes,
I
a
don't-
beater.
Would you really call
Exactly
it a
right.
beater?
You should have seen the oil that came out of that thing. Anyways, so yeah, I had a beater, you could say. And then the other one was a little nicer, and I had plans to sell it, so I put it at the office to avoid, something like that happening.
Okay, so you decided to go take that car and basically switch cars.
That's correct.
And you did that at what time, if you remember?
Around 10 p.m., I would say.
Okay. Did you live with anybody at the time?
My girlfriend.
Okay.
So now fiance, she's nice, but she's always like, "Oh, it's so late. Just leave it. It's fine." But I'm just always like obsessed. So I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm just gonna switch it really quick."
Because you didn't want anything to happen to it.
Correct.
Okay. So when you went to the building around 10 o'clock that night,
Mhm.
what, if anything, did you know about Jennifer Crumbley?
So obviously, I was relatively in tune with what had happened at the school. So I knew of that news, and I had heard through Facebook. I don't know what or who posted it, but it was some type of poster, that was like, "Hey, this is like the car, this is like the situation," everything like that.
What was on the poster?
The car and the license plate, and presumably any photos or anything like that.
Okay, so I need you to kind of be specific when you
Yes.
say the car and photos. Were there any people pictured in the photos?
I believe so.
And do you know who that was?
Well, it was the two parents.
Okay, the Crumbleys.
Mhm.
All right. And then there were pictures of cars.
Yeah, there was a picture of, it was like a stock photo of a Kia, and it was a newer Kia that I'd never seen before. So I kind of remember that, and then there was a license plate as well.
Okay. What did the poster say along? Were there any words?
Yeah, I mean, I assume it, years ago at the time, but I assume it would have said wanted, and then additional information about the whereabouts, anything like that. But
Okay.
just really, to my knowledge, all I really remember is the car and the
Kia.
license plate.
Okay. All right. So tell the jury what happened as you approached the building. What's the first thing you did? You have to use the clicker?
Yeah, so I used the clicker, and I don't know how far you want me to go, but I used the clicker, pulled my car into the parking lot where I normally park my car, and then at the time I noticed a car was parked in the back corner of the lot, tucked away, but I didn't really pay any mind to it. We have cars, many tenants in the building with different cars, and employees leave cars every now and then. But I feel like I'm pretty in tune with who keeps their cars there and just generally observant. And so I saw the car, didn't really think much of it, went inside to my office, and then when I walked back out of the door, that's kind of when I was in line of sight of the front of the car, and that's when...
Okay, so the
Yeah.
car wasn't.
Yeah.
The car was in. Was backed in, or was it parked front first?
No, so it was backed into the the furthest corner of the lot.
Okay.
Uh,
Were there any other cars in the lot?
There may have been one car in there that wasn't my own, but I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if that's it, but I do know there's one car that generally sits there.
Was it the closest spot to the building, or the furthest away?
It was so if you're standing in the front of the building, it was the furthest spot you could park possible.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I said November 30th, and I apologize. It wasn't November 30th. I was asking, did you know what happened on November 30th?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
What was the day, though, that you went to the, at 10 o'clock to switch the cars?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Whatever day.
Was it a Friday?
I'm not.
Okay,
Okay.
if I told you it was December 3rd, do you have reason to believe that was incorrect?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I remember it being very cold out.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keys, for reminding me of that. So you came back out, and you saw. Did you say you saw the car again?
Yeah. So when I opened the door, the side door of the building, and walked out, I was met more in the line of sight with the front of the car since it was backed into the spot.
And what did you think, if anything?
Really, I just thought it looked a little familiar, and it rung a bell. And it was the car that I saw on the poster.
How soon in time to the wanted poster, as you describe it, did you see that car?
It was the same day.
Okay. All right, so what did you do next?
So I saw the car, but obviously it was back in, so I didn't see the plate, which I thought was peculiar, just because it was a newer car and I hadn't seen it before. So I pulled up on my phone the poster I found it.
Hold on.
And
I think you're hearing people next door.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so you pulled up the poster on your phone.
so I found the poster, and I was doing this as I was walking to the car. And by the time I had the poster up, I turned my flashlight on and walked around the back of the car on the driver's side to the back, and then obviously put two and two together that was the plate that was on the poster.
So the license plate, did the license plate match what was on the poster? Or
Yes. Mm-hmm.
not? Okay, and then what happened?
And then so I looked over and saw somebody sitting next to the car on a curb. So there's like a general curb. Saw somebody sitting there
On the driver's side?
on the passenger side, rear passenger side. There's like an elevated curb that you could sit on. It's probably 2 feet tall.
Okay.
And somebody was sitting there, put up in like a blue plaid hoodie, and I wasn't like,
Did you say anything?
I didn't say anything.
As you approach the car and it's facing you, correct, the front of it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any figure on the passenger side wheel? Okay.
No, it was also dark.
Okay. Was there a line of sight? For instance, when you turned around and you, from the back of the passenger, could you see in front of you, or was there something obstructing that?
No, it was pretty clear, straight shot. As to whether or not we would have been able to make eye contact in theory, I'm not 100% positive,
Okay.
just based off of like the angle of where the door in the car is. But
would it be, if you were standing where that person was sitting, would you have been able to see somebody approaching the car?
if I was standing, then yes. If I was sitting, I'm not 100% positive.
Okay. So, did that figure in the hoodie move?
No.
Did that individual turn around and respond to your flashlight?
No.
Did that individual say anything?
No.
Did you notice anything else? Do you know what the individual was doing?
No.
Okay. What did you do next?
Turned my flashlight off and very calmly walked back into the building as if I didn't see anybody.
Why did you do that?
Because I assumed after connecting that it was the plate that it was somebody related to the incident.
Okay. And how are you feeling in that moment?
Quite tense. I remember specifically putting the plate 2 and 2 together. It's like that's a feeling you've never felt before.
Okay.
But so then I walked back into my office, and I locked all the doors, and then.
Were you afraid?
I would say so. Yeah, I wasn't aware of. I mean, it was a lot of emotions were going on at the time.
Okay. Is the building equipped with a CCTV?
As far as I know, they have cameras, and they've used them before. In other, there was a theft in that building once.
Okay, so are you aware where the cameras are placed?
Generally.
Okay.
There's one in the parking lot that we're talking about right now, and then there's a few in I would consider like the main promenade of the building inside.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to view that footage in the night? That night?
No, I have not.
Okay. It is People's 344.
Is there a phone? Oh, he dropped his phone.
Okay.
Your Honor, the defense stipulates to the admission of 344.
Thank you. All right. Like you can see on your monitor
Yeah.
there. What are we looking at?
Okay, so this is a camera from the rear of the building. I actually didn't know that we had a camera here.
Okay.
There's another camera, which in this there's that trash like kind of receptacle back there in the top right corner.
Okay.
There's another camera there.
All right. So, what's up on the right corner, top of the page? What is that?
That's like a dumpster.
Okay.
So it's like a removable dumpster.
And where, in relation to this photo, would the entrance or exit be?
Right to the left of it. So if you are looking generally, like, yeah, that is the gate that you pull into.
Okay, so this is looking at the building.
This is on the building. The
Okay.
camera itself looking away from the building.
So that's where what we just pointed to is where you would enter the parking lot.
Correct.
Where the clicker.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the actual door is, to the right here. Yeah, right over there.
Okay. Okay, for the record, Your Honor, the timestamp is 22 minutes off. It seems to be a running theme with all surveillance. So that would be what time would? One moment, Your Honor.
Isn't this 10:56? It's not 10:56.
The stamp on the screen is 22 minutes fast than actual time.
Okay. We're going to establish the time of the 911 call, which might help put this in better perspective. At some point, you called 911, correct?
Yes.
Was it, how long of a time period was it from seeing the individual and recognizing it was the same car to calling 911?
Maybe a minute or two.
Okay. So your call to 911 was around 10:43 that night.
Okay.
You just a few minutes before that, is that correct?
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
I went right into my office and called them immediately.
Okay. And something. Okay. So I believe that's around 10:34 that this footage is from, but we can clear that up, and we're going to play that. And who is that, if you know, Luke?
One of them presumably. I'm not 100% positive.
Is that your car at the top?
I believe so. That would make sense.
All right. Well, we'll wait till
Yeah,
you're.
we'll wait until I pull it in, and I'll definitely be able to know. Yeah, so that's the BMW that I have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And your spot, that parking spot, is that, how close to the entrance of the building is it?
I'm parked right next to the door.
Okay. And the place where you saw this Kia and we saw an individual walking towards the left, where would that car, we can't see it, but where would it be parked in relation to this screen?
So where is their car?
Yes.
In the bottom left, right there.
Okay. So at the top, do you see can you tell the jury what you're doing?
Going into the building, looks like.
Okay.
You can see me look over at the car too, right there for the first time. Also, just for the record, I don't know if this is my BMW or the Volkswagen, but I know I had those two at the time. And they both have roof racks, unfortunately.
Okay. When you enter the building, then do you have to go into another door to get to your unit?
Yeah, I have to go through just my main office door.
Okay, so can you tell the jury what you're doing right there?
So this is where I'm walking over to check that plate.
And what do you have in your hand?
My phone. I've never seen this too.
military what you're doing now?
Playing it cool, as they would say.
Okay, playing it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you
He said he was playing it cool. And what do you see there?
So this obviously I didn't know of or see at the time, but the person that I saw going into the building looks like
Almost right after you.
directly after, yeah.
Did you see that person when you?
I must have been in my unit at the time because I did not know anybody came into the building after.
Okay. Did you know until now that happened?
I did know that I put it together that they got into the building somehow.
Okay. Okay, so there's a car at the top entering the parking lot. How long did you stay in your unit?
Until they arrived, and then I came out of the front of the building.
Okay.
Which my door, the front door to my entrance is like right where they are, basically. Because this whole wall on the right side, all of those are, that's my whole unit.
Okay.
From basically, I would say the end of the other unit, you know, the artist's unit, all the way down to the corner of the building.
Okay, it might be a good time to talk about that. Do you know a person whose last name is Sikora?
Yes.
All right, how do you know him?
I know he's a tenant in the building.
Have you ever spent time talking to him? Are you friends?
No, we've waved to each other before,
Okay.
but more than that, nothing. I didn't know anything about him, and yeah, that was the extent of our relationship.
Okay, and did you ever, around this time, was there anything significant about the hallway on the first floor? Was there anything left there?
Well, so tenants will leave things every now and then. At the time, there was in the central promenade, which is like generally where people pull into the elevator and whatnot. There was a mattress sitting there.
Can you describe the mattress?
It was a white mattress. I think it had like an orange stripe on it. Not positive, but I think it was a Tempur-Pedic as well.
Okay. Was that normal to have a mattress just hanging out in the promenade? Okay. How long was it there?
A few days, maybe a week. Could have been there longer. I know it was there long enough for somebody to put a note on it and to ask if it was like being thrown out, and if they could buy it or use it or something. But somebody put a note on it at some point.
All right. And when you walked back into the building that night, at some point did you notice that that mattress was no longer in that promenade area?
I probably didn't pay any particular mind to it, but it wasn't there.
The next day?
Yeah.
Did you notice that, or that night, or?
Well, I assume I could have noticed at the time, but I don't recall if I particularly remember if the mattress was there. Obviously, my mind was on something else at this point.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm going to play for you. At some point, you called 911. You
Yes.
said. Okay. I'm going to play for you the 911 call. You have listened to that before.
Yes.
Okay. It's Exhibit 345. I'm not sure if there's an objection to it.
I'm sorry, we stipulate to the admission of 345.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to play it.
Call on Friday, December 3rd, 2021, 10:43 and 14 seconds p.m.
Detroit 911, what is the address of the emergency?
1111 Bellevue Street.
Repeat the address of your station.
1111 Bellevue Street.
What's the far across street?
Lafayette and Bellevue.
Tell me exactly what happened.
The people the parents of the shooter that are running away, they're here.
Sir, I'm not sure what you're referring to. You have to be more specific. Tell me exactly what happened at the location. What's going on now?
Okay, so the Oakland shooter, the kid, has the two parents that are on the run right now, and it says, Oakland County said, call if you see anything. And I just went to go park my car and switch it around at my office, and there was a Kia that looked like their car, and I walked around and checked the license plate, and it's their car, and the woman is here, next to the car.
The woman is where? running around. What is she wearing?
Yeah. She's wearing a hoodie, but I don't know what kind.
What color is the hoodie?
I don't know. I think it was plaid, but I saw her first lips and I like ran inside because I like my.
But, so you're not sure what color the hoodie was, but you've seen her sitting there?
Yes.
Okay, so what's your name?
Luke.
Okay, well, we're keeping this in that area, thank you.
Okay, I can't believe it. They're here.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to stay on or am I?
No, sir, you're fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, they're here. It's crazy, but that's the people are looking for.
Okay, so they'll be there to show us, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so that is the 911 call you
Yeah.
made, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And where were you when you made that call?
So I was sitting in the corner of my office, which at the time was a great spot because it was kind of hidden away. It was
So you
kind
were
of,
hiding?
more or less. I just I really didn't know what was going to go on, so I sat in the back corner where we kind of like inventory all of our green coffee, the unroasted coffee, which shares a wall with the unit next door. So
The art studio?
yes.
Okay.
And at the time, that was the most secure spot, but obviously
Okay.
the next room over.
All right. Are there windows on your unit that look out to the parking lot on the first
Yeah,
floor?
many.
All right. Are there windows in the art studio that look out to the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. How soon after you made that call did you hear sounds of law enforcement?
Well, I saw the lights through the window, and that's when I came out. 5-ish minutes.
All right. How many cars approached?
It wasn't many. It was like 1 or 2.
All right. And what did you do?
I met them out there and basically gave them the lowdown. Said the car in the corner is the one, and then I let them into the building, and they went because you can only access. I didn't have my fob, obviously, that was sitting in, or the garage opener that was sitting in the car. So opened the door for them. Then they went out the side door, verified the plate, and then a lot more people showed up.
Okay. Talk to me. Tell the jury about that.
So maybe 5 minutes after they personally identified that was the car that they were looking for. I mean, it must have been 20 or 30 officers at that time.
Lights and sirens?
Oh yeah, don't know if the sirens were on particularly, but lights were on for sure. I mean, people came like locked and loaded. There were a lot of guns.
All right. Locked and loaded. What does that mean to you? Can you describe that to me?
Every, the officers who were inside of the building had, full-on rifles walking through the space.
Vests?
Yep,
Okay.
definitely.
Do you remember what it said on their vest?
No, but I know U.S. Marshals were there
Okay.
at some time
And how do you know that?
because they told me.
All right. The people you spoke to, though, what law enforcement agency at the first 2 or 3 cars that are
I assume they were deceased.
Okay. At some point, did you go back into your unit?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
When, that night. When was it?
Sometime between now and there was a time where an officer took me to like a central command center area that they set up a couple blocks away. But they told me to hang out in the office sometimes. I sat there for a little bit. I stepped outside for a little bit. Generally, kind of like floating between outside and.
Okay. When you were in your unit, could you hear any sounds?
Yeah, generally I can hear quite a bit. It's just the windows. The half of the walls are just windows,
Okay.
and then all the walls. It's just 2 pieces of drywall, no insulation. So generally, you can hear that people are in the building.
All right. And that evening, did you see any searches conducted?
Yes.
All right. And was there one officer or more than one? How many were in the building, if you know?
10.
Okay. And were they silent or were they talking?
No, they were talking.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So they were making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Okay. And you, at that time, did you have any idea where this individual was by the car?
No. So they asked me. I didn't think just asked me what I think, and I was like, they definitely would have taken off.
Okay.
So they had, essentially a perimeter. I was standing with an officer, and he was like, oh yeah, like we're scouting out the surroundings and whatnot. So I, at the time, if you would have asked me if they were in the building, I would have told you 100% no way.
But you didn't see them go anywhere?
Nope.
You just thought they would be running?
Yeah, I didn't think there was a situation where they would have been able to access the building without the fob.
I see. At some point, the Crumbleys were apprehended. Were you there?
I was at the command center thing that I described earlier at the time.
Okay, so did you observe searches just in the house, or were you aware that there was searching going on in the area?
No, I was just aware that there were searches going on in the office building.
Okay, and did you return to your office that night?
Well, I had to get my car. I don't know if I entered my office afterwards.
Okay. Do you?
Oh wait, I did walk into the office because I was walking with officers.
All right. Do you know if that was before or after they were apprehended?
That was after. I was not there during the apprehension. One of the officers, when we were sitting at the command center, was like, "Here they go," and then took me to the office.
And did you recognize anything about either one of the individuals?
I never saw the individuals.
Okay.
I only saw a car, a SWAT car leave.
Okay, I appreciate that. Do you remember what time that was, or when you arrived home that night?
Late, maybe 2 or 3 a.m.
In the morning?
It was a couple hours, yes.
Okay. At some point, did that mattress reappear?
Yes. So afterwards, I don't know if it was the same day or the following day, but the mattress was back into the hallway, and there was a bit of a tangle as to what happened with it after. Somebody had placed it in front of the artist's door at a time, and then it got moved back to the center and kind of went back and forth because I don't know whose it was, but I assumed they didn't want it after what had happened. So I don't know where it is now, but it was generally floating around the office building for a couple days afterwards.
Okay. Thank you, Luke.
Yep.
Cross.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Shannon. I'm going to ask you some questions. If I confuse you in any way or ask a bad question, can you please let me know?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I just want to go back. You're a tenant in the building. Your business is in that building, is that correct?
That's correct.
And there are other businesses in that building.
Yes.
It is not in any way, shape, or form an abandoned building.
That's correct.
Now, you were testifying about how you have cars that you store in the building. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, the court has to make a clear record of yes
Sure.
or no, so they can't record mm-hms, but
Okay.
I knew it.
Yes.
Okay, so you have cars that you don't want people to see that occasionally you have over at your place of business, correct?
That's correct.
So at night, if you have a nice car, you actually put it into the building so that people out in the parking lot can't just see it out and about.
Yes, though I would say I'm very particular about my cars. I would say that generally people don't think like that.
Okay, but if you're thinking like that and you want to make sure people don't see your cars,
Mm-hmm.
you know if you put them in the building, they're safer.
That's correct. It's in my my unit specifically, so I have a garaged unit that I pull the car into because technically it's still in public view by the other tenants if I were to just park the car. And we aren't allowed to park our car in this space generally. I only use it for my specific unit.
Okay, I see. And on that date, it's fair to say no one asks you, hey, can somebody put their car in your private space in the building, correct?
Correct.
Now, you testified that when you saw the person out in the parking lot, they were sitting outside of their car. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you even walked over with your flashlight,
Mm-hmm.
that person didn't get up and run away, anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Could you tell what that person was doing?
No. Just
If
sitting.
If I told you they were smoking cigarettes, do you recall seeing that?
No.
So they stayed sitting even when they saw you with the flashlight out there.
That's correct.
And after they saw you with the flashlight, we saw in the video, you went back in playing it cool, correct?
Yes.
And that person appears to have walked back into the building as well.
Yes.
You weren't aware that they walked back in the building, but we can see now on the tape that that's what happened.
Correct.
And you testified that when you could see the person out by the car, they could also see you, correct?
Not particularly. If they were sitting behind the car, like I mentioned, there's a chance they couldn't have met direct eye contact with me coming out of the building.
So they may have seen you or may not have.
Correct.
Now, you testified too that when this was all unfolding, you put yourself in the most secure spot in your space, in your tenant space, correct?
Yes.
You went into your office and felt like you needed to hide out in the most safe place you could find.
I wanted to be as far away from my doors as possible, given the instance somebody perhaps would enter or hear me or anything.
And from what you knew about this case, there is this statewide manhunt for Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley.
That's correct.
And from what you knew, it appeared that law enforcement, the marshals, the border patrol, sheriff's department, law enforcement around the state are looking for the Crumbleys, correct?
I would say my extent of who was looking for them was only to the actual poster that I saw.
Okay.
I wasn't particularly familiar with the gravity of the situation.
You were familiar that it was important, though, because when you saw them, you obviously knew, I need to call 911 and
That's
make
correct.
sure to report this.
Yes.
And if anything, you were shocked that you ended up seeing their vehicle at your place of business.
Yes.
Now, when you saw people coming, you testified that a lot of law enforcement came in with lots of guns. Is that correct?
After identifying the car.
After identifying the car,
Firstly, just an officer or two showed up.
okay, so an officer or two showed up. Did they have guns?
No.
Okay, when were there lots of
I
guns?
assume they did have a handgun.
Yeah.
As officers do. Though I wouldn't see the arrival of people with any rifles or anything like that until after that was confirmed.
Okay, so after law enforcement got there is when you see law enforcement coming in with rifles, guns, vests, things like that.
Yes.
Now, the cameras you testified about on the outside of the building, there was one camera that you said, oh, I didn't even know we had a camera there. Do you recall testifying to that?
Yes.
There are many other cameras on the outside of the building that are visible to anyone in the parking lot, correct?
Yes. I would say they're not out there like you would be like, oh, look at those cameras. But there are cameras there. If you look around, you'll find them.
So if you're in the parking lot and you look at the building, you can see that there's different cameras on the building?
Yes.
And there's a number of cameras on the building.
There are, so including this one, there are two on that side of the parking lot, two small white cameras, and then perhaps one on the front. I don't know if there are any other outside of the building. To my knowledge, that's the extent of the cameras that I know.
You testified that there was no way you could imagine you were pretty much 100% sure to yourself that Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley, while they may have been there, were not in the building, correct?
That's correct.
And you testified you would have thought they would have taken off and run, correct?
Correct.
If they were smarter criminals, they would have taken off and run.
Your Honor, I'm not sure she wants me to answer that, but it's not an appropriate question. He doesn't know how smart of criminals
Excuse me,
they
I'm
were.
going to just withdraw the question.
Okay, well, that would cause him to speculate.
So obviously you reported all of that. That's the extent of your involvement in the case, the 911 tape, correct?
Yes.
And then you've worked with the prosecutor to prepare for your testimony today.
More or less.
Okay. I have no other further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Briefly, we met one time at the office, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And I asked you what happened?
Yes.
Okay. Were you, when you were hiding in your office, about in that corner,
Mhm.
were you hiding from law enforcement?
No.
Who were you hiding from?
Well, so I sat in that corner specifically because I thought it was the most far away from the windows. In the instance somebody would hear something out there, or if something really bad were to happen, you know, if somebody was armed or something, could have shot through a window.
But when you saw law enforcement,
I was already outside right when law enforcement arrived.
right? So you weren't afraid of the law enforcement.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Can you be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, you can step down.
Thank you.
Who's next witness?
We have Corporal David Shaw in the hallway.
Corporal David Shaw. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about you is the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please step up and have a seat? And then would you state your name for the record and spell your first and last name?
My name is David Shaw, S-H-A-W. First name is David, D-A-V-I-D.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to speak really as loud as you can, okay? Okay. How are you employed?
I'm employed with the Detroit Police Department.
Okay, and what do you do there?
I'm assigned to the Special Response Team, which is the city's SWAT team.
The SWAT team?
Yep.
Okay. How long have you been a police officer?
For 13 years,
And what's your rank right now?
corporal.
Corporal. Okay, so I'm not familiar with Detroit Police and their ranking structure. Tell me what that means.
So corporal is essentially like would be a field training officer or a trainer of other police officers. That's essentially it.
Okay. And how long have you been assigned to the City of Detroit Special Response Team?
For approximately 10 years.
10 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where did you work prior to that?
I worked on the Eastern District, which is like a Gunston and Gratiot.
Okay, so would that be a patrol officer?
Correct.
Okay. So tell the jury, please, what are some of the responsibilities of a member of the Detroit Police Special Response Team?
The Special Response Team serves high-risk search warrants, usually for homicide suspects or dangerous people, and then we also do barricaded gunmen, so get domestic violence and someone barricaded in the house. They don't want to come out, police officers will call us and we respond to that scene.
Okay. So you've had specific training when it comes to executing search warrants and arrest warrants?
Correct.
Okay. So how many, we would call this a raid. Would that be right? Fair?
That's fair.
Okay. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Yep.
Okay. So how many times have you executed either a search warrant or an arrest warrant?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. I mean,
Give us the ballpark if you can.
probably hundreds. I know I have 173 barricaded gunmen incidents I've dealt with.
173 barricaded gunmen alone?
Correct.
Okay.
So, and then on top of that, the search warrants, I don't keep track of that off the top of my head, but I would say more than 200. easily.
Okay. So you've been doing this for about a decade?
Correct.
And is this the routine practice of the Detroit Police Special Response Team?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now I want to direct your attention to Friday, December the 3rd, 2021, approximately 11:30 p.m.
Okay.
Do you recall that date and time?
I do.
Okay. And did you have occasion to be recalled to 1111 Bellevue in the city of Detroit?
Yep. Got recalled for a search for a wanted fugitive. That was the recall we got. So that was the only information I got prior to getting there.
Okay. Now, when I say recall, what does that mean?
So our commander will call our lieutenant, who then texts our sergeants, and they send out a text message to our whole team that says, "Come back to the base or respond to this particular address." In this case, it was respond to this area. And once I got there, it was given more information at that time.
Okay. So I take it 11:30 at night on that Friday night, you weren't in the office itself. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that was at home.
Okay. So when you recalled, you're always on call, but you're called to duty?
Correct.
Okay. So as a member of the Special Response Team, is it fair to say that you're always on call?
I'm always on call.
Always on call. Okay. So approximately what time did you arrive at that location?
I'm usually pretty quick. That's roughly 20 minutes from my house, with maybe 25 minutes before I got to that scene.
Okay. So if you got the message about 11:30, would it be fair to say you arrived before midnight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, what type of building is at that location?
There's a large, I want to call it maybe an industrial type building.
If I showed you some pictures, would that help?
Yeah.
So we have people's 348, 349, and 351 for this witness.
348 through 351.
349 and 351.
We have no objection to those.
Right, 348. So 348, 349,
And 351.
351, not 350.
Correct. That's what this one is. Sir, on the screen in front of you, can you see the People's Admitted Exhibit 348?
I do.
Okay. And what am I looking at in this photograph here?
It looks like an industrial building to me.
Okay, so this is the address 1111 Bellevue in the city of Detroit? Is that a yes?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. And this is, I'm sorry. This is People's Admitted 349. This is the same building?
It looks to be, yes, sir.
Okay. And this is People's 351. Again, photograph of 1111 Bellevue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you arrived, sir, tell me what you saw, your initial observations.
There's a ton of police cars initially. With this particular incident, there wasn't anywhere to set up on like a barricade gunman would be, so I kind of waited until we had more officers show up to the scene prior to making entry into the building.
Okay. So let me stop you right there. You said a ton of officers are already in scene. Was that your team members or were
No,
other officers?
There's other people. So there's, I couldn't tell you what agencies or what units were there, but it was more than just SRT.
Okay, so it's more than Detroit Police Special Response. Was it also, more than just Detroit police officers as well?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you. I didn't see any other city cars, but there was a lot of Detroit police cars, and then as we started showing up, this was prior to making entry. Once we were in the building, there was multiple agencies, and multiple tactical teams, or at least one other tactical team that we ended up running into while we were clearing.
Okay. So, sir, tell me, you arrived a little before midnight, you said,
Yes.
and at that point, were your team members already there?
No, I was the first one there. I talked with I believe it was a commander or a lieutenant that was on the scene already. He kind of gave me a rundown of what was going on, and we kind of formed a plan and waited for other guys to get there before he made entry to this building.
So you were recalled from your home, you said?
Correct.
Okay. Were you wearing the uniform you're wearing today?
No, sir.
Tell me what you were wearing.
It's essentially an unmarked uniform, but it's a black tactical shirt, which allows me to apply patches to each shoulder, so I'm able to identify myself as a Detroit police officer. Then I have a heavy vest on that says police across the chest.
Heavy vest is what?
It's a bulletproof ballistic vest
Okay.
with heavy plates on the inside for protection from firearms. Helmet, usually a mask. At this time it's pretty cold, so I usually do wear a face covering. Also have my badge on, my rig that I use for my gun belt, and that's essentially it. Everything's all black though, except for the police and white lettering across the
Okay.
chest.
And that's the standard uniform of the Detroit Police Special Response Team?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So once you met with the other team members and a plan was organized, what happened next?
We actually made entry into this building where there was a ton of officers there already.
Give us an idea of how many.
On the main floor, when we first went through the front door, there was, I'd say, roughly 20 people in there, just in the initial slot.
Just in the main entryway?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were officers that were dressed kind of plain clothes. Some guys that maybe they're dressed like DFAT, which would be like jeans and a shirt, but a vest that identifies them as police.
What's DFAT?
As the Detroit's Fugitive Apprehension Team.
Okay.
And there was other, like I said, other officers there that looked to be like a tactical team.
Okay. So you weren't the only special response team on the scene?
I wouldn't say no.
All right. And we've already heard testimony that this building had 3 floors to it. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So tell us, sir, what is the first thing that the Detroit Police Department Special Response Team did?
So after making entry, we started searching the main floor kind of slowly. I know we did breach 1 or 2 doors on the initial entry. There was a room right to our right when we went into the door. We had to breach a double door. We breached that one, and
Let me stop you right there. Breach, what does that mean?
we used a ram, and a manual breach is you're breaking the door open, you're defeating the locking mechanism.
Okay.
And that's what we did.
So that was on the first floor of this building?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so who used the ram? Was it you or another member?
It was another member.
Okay. So describe to us what happens when you use the breach to defeat a locking mechanism.
You're essentially banging a 35-pound metal ram against the door until it opens.
Until it opens? Okay.
Yeah.
And were you able to breach that door in this particular instance?
Yes.
Okay. And what was found in that room, if you recall?
Nothing. It actually ended up wrapping around to another door. We ended up going out that door and back into the hallway that we were in, but we had cleared that room and the conjoining room before we went back out to the hallway.
Okay. Now, at some point, was Detroit Police Department's Special Response Team coordinating with other tactical units on scene?
I believe my commander was, or my sergeant. I was not personally.
That's fair.
But I couldn't. I would assume they were.
Okay. So just walk us through then where your particular team went that evening.
We started on the main floor, and we were given information that the 2 wanted fugitives went up to the second floor and never returned back downstairs. So that kind of forced our way. That kind of pushed us to the second floor.
Were other officers on the second floor already?
Correct. Yes, and that's when we ran into that second tactical team who said they had cleared the second floor. They cleared all the open doors.
Okay.
So we ended up clearing the closed doors as much as we could. At some point, somebody gained access to a ring of keys, and we were opening the closed door, locked doors with the keys.
Okay. Now, at this point in time, when the tactical units were inside the building, were there other police officers on the exterior of the building?
Yeah, there was police everywhere. I would assume. I'd be guessing at this point, but I would bet there was police on the perimeter of the building.
Okay. And you said police everywhere?
Yeah.
Were there emergency lights activated in vehicles?
I'm not 100% sure with that.
That's okay. Was it just the tactical units then inside the building at this point?
There was a canine officer as well.
Canine as well?
We utilized canine officers a canine officer on the second floor who checked each door prior to us opening it with the dog, and we never obviously got any hits from the dog on the second floor.
Okay. And to your knowledge, were there other teams on the third floor at this point in time as well?
I'm not 100% sure.
That's fair. Where did you go after the second floor was cleared?
If I'm not mistaken, I think we went up to the third floor before returning back down to the main floor.
Okay. So at some point in time, you and your team returned back to the first floor.
Correct.
Okay. And why did you do that?
At some point, one of my supervisors was given information that the room the wanted fugitives were supposed to be in was on the first floor. At some point, someone asked if it had already been cleared, and which they said no. So, okay, so we went back down directly to that room.
Okay, and you were given a set of keys for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you recall who gave you the keys?
I never got the keys. Somebody opened the door for me. I was just number one into that room.
Okay, so tell me, that suite in particular, if I told you it was suite 130, would that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Okay. That suite in particular, what's the proximity from that location to the location where you used the 35-pound ram to kick in the door?
It's on the same floor, on the same side of the building. Probably guess maybe 10 or 15 feet away.
Okay.
That.
All right. Now, at this point in time, were the Detroit Police Department Special Response Team equipped with body-worn cameras?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was yours activated that night?
Yes, sir.
Now, how long would you say that your particular team was on this location from the time you arrived to the time that you entered Suite 130?
I guess maybe an hour, hour and a half.
Okay.
2 hours tops, but I'd be guessing at this point.
That's okay. Just an estimate, that's all we're asking.
Yep.
And during that hour, hour and a half, up to 2 hours, were other tactical teams also clearing other rooms?
Yes, sir.
Now, your body worn camera would have a date and time stamp on it, if you know.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is going to be equals 347. I don't believe there's an objection.
No, there's not. We stipulate to the admission.
347 is admitted.
Let me just stop it for a second to confirm. This is December the 4th, 2021 at 1:33 in the morning.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is camera from your body worn camera.
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us quickly, where is that camera affixed on your uniform?
I have it affixed to the right side of my chest, just underneath my magazine carriers.
Okay.
I have a lot of stuff here, but it's just a space pretty much right underneath my right arm.
We see a lot of stuff here. We're talking about the tactical vest you described?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let me see those hands. Let me see those fucking hands. One person at a time. Let me see those hands. Yup. Let me see hands. Hands. Keep those hands where they're at. One hand. Middle hands. Turn around. On your stomach. On your fucking stomach. Hands behind your head. Good. Stand up. Stand up. What's your name? James. James what? Crumbley. Just one, two. Yep. Stay there. Let's walk up. Oh, yep. Can I move? We'll roll this mattress. Ready? These are yours? Those are mine. Those are mine. Put your glasses on. Look at it. American almost. See something. Hold on, I gotta take a minute, right? No, I'll do it. Double check. You see now? Everyone out. This is not clear. Everyone out. This is still an arrest. Out. We got double check for weapons, so we're not. This is still an
And sir, we overheard an officer say with the double check for weapons, it's not the special response team's function to actually search for evidentiary items, just for weapons?
Correct. At this point, it's more of a safety search. Before we let anybody into this room, we're going to make sure that we know where weapons are and make sure they're secure before anybody else coming from the public or not from our team is in that room.
Okay. And there were no weapons located in this search?
I did not find any weapons.
Okay. But an actual search of this location will be conducted by members of the crime scene unit. Would that be right?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Listen, everybody, Just sleep, that's it. Yep. Listen. That's all. Careful. This guy, Melissa was in right now.
Sir, I stopped at 1:37 and, well, 1:37 a.m., 41 seconds. Where my cursor is, this is a window?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, and those are the windows we saw in the photographs earlier admitted that face the parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Now, once, do you even know the identities of the individuals, if you recall?
I believe after, before we made entry, we were given information that we were looking for these particular people.
Okay. So it's James and Jennifer Crumbley?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fair to say it wasn't a Detroit Police Department law enforcement investigation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you were given the information that the fugitives could have been there?
Yes, sir.
Once James and Jennifer Crumbley were taken from this location, were they turned over to members of Oakland County?
Turned over to, I believe, our DFAT unit right at the door to this room.
Okay.
And that was that's when we as a team released custody to those.
All right, but that wouldn't have been, your function would happen with them after?
Right now.
Okay. Now, from the video, it depicts that they were found on a mattress on the floor of this suite. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have testified that you used a ram to breach a door about 10 or 15 feet away from the entry door to this suite?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was before that you made entry into this particular room?
That was initially when we first made entry into this building, maybe an hour prior to that.
Okay. And then this arrest occurred after teams, other tactical units, had already searched floors 2 and 3 as well as other rooms in floor 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is after all of those officers were on scene?
Yes, sir.
Now, in your experience in 10 years with special response, you said you've executed, if you could even ballpark, hundreds of arrest warrants. Was that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In your experience, have you caught anyone asleep before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what was your impression if James and Jennifer Crumbley were asleep or not when you entered the room?
Your Honor, I would object. This calls for speculation. The video speaks for itself, and really the appropriate person to ask is Mrs. Crumbley if she was asleep.
Okay.
So I think the foundation's been laid that he's been on hundreds of these executions.
He hasn't seen Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley sleep 100 times.
Okay, well, I think he can describe exactly what he saw.
Sir,
I mean, if I close my eyes right now, I don't know if you'd know if I'm asleep or not. I mean, I probably am, but, yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
But you don't know if someone's asleep just because their eyes are closed.
I'm just asking his impression.
Are his eyes closed? Were their eyes closed? Were they moving or not moving? Like, you know, you can ask those types of questions.
Paint the picture for us what you perceived.
As I made entry, I see two people laying on a mattress. If I'm not mistaken, they were facing each other, not moving, not making a sound.
Okay. And that's after your entire team entered the suite?
Correct.
Okay. And after the door was breached 15 feet away?
Yes, sir.
All right. I have nothing further.
Cross.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
In the video, after you guys find the people on the mattress, there's a person that's making yelling noises. Are you aware of who is yelling?
It would be Mr. James Crumbley. Yeah.
And did you see or observe Mrs. Crumbley making any noises?
I did not.
There's a little bit of conversation we hear on the video about eyeglasses,
Yes, ma'am.
and that was Mrs. Crumbley asking if she could please have her eyeglasses.
Okay.
Is that fair?
To be honest, looking back at it, watching the video, I thought it was Mr. Crumbley saying that was his glasses on the mattress. And I just watched the video, so I may be mistaken.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Redirect.
None.
Okay, you can step down when you're excused. The jurors' lunches are here. So unless you had someone super short.
I'm sorry, Judge. The jurors' lunches are here?
Yeah, if you had a super short witness, we'd take it now. If not, can you tell me who the witness next
No,
witness is?
but we could rest today, Judge. So
Okay.
we are going to meet with the remaining witnesses we have. We'll decide how many more we need to put on. So counsel has requested to know, and I believe she should be prepared to begin her case today if she chooses to present one.
Your Honor, I am going to present one, but I'm not prepared as I've emailed the
Okay.
court a
Okay,
million
you could be
times.
prepared to present your case, if any, tomorrow morning. If the prosecution rests, I want to reiterate that the defense doesn't have to do anything. Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Crumbley can sit here and play chess if they'd like, all right? They don't have to do anything, but if they choose to do so, you can do it tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Pardon me, Your Honor. He left his phone.
Oh, okay, all
Uh-oh.
right. Okay, so, I'm gonna have you come back at 1:45. Okay, your lunches are here. Please don't discuss the case with anyone, with each other. Don't Google anything, don't go on the phone, don't post anything, don't read any news, and don't look at any TV about the case, all right?
All rise for the jury.